And of course, I'll just tweet about this, let everybody
Yeah.
know that we're going live.
Yeah, all good.
Come on. Right, mostly there. Just tweet it out for you, and
Yeah, we go. It's popped up.
right. All right, so let me get the rest of my stuff over, and as people join, we'll take a look at the chat, we'll see what's going on, and we will start testing all this awesomeness.
Sounds good.
So the only thing I did when I received the ROM cart from you, I plugged it into this 7800 to make sure that it worked, and that was it.
Yep.
That's all I did. So
Okay.
we know that it works. This isn't going to be a complete fail of a stream, but we might have to do some more tweaking and stuff as well. But I have the original PSU,
Okay.
9-volt 1 amp, so this should actually be, if it wasn't for the proprietary connector, this would be a pretty
Yeah.
standard PSU.
Yeah, I've converted all of mine over to the barrel connector. So mine have I generally run mine off a Jaguar power supply.
Okay. Night Owl Brian, what's up? Yes, I agree. This is my fuel today. No, there's no whiskey in that. But it is a cafe mocha because I'm fat and sometimes I like some chocolate in my coffee.
Tends to be my thing in mocha, must admit. Right,
Okay.
find the stream as well.
So we have the original RF cable, which we're just not going to use, and we have 2 controllers. But there's something else that we're going to test somewhat soon. Controller related, but we have these 2. I don't even know. I don't think this was an official Atari controller. This is Wico Command Control. Wico.
Does that work with the 7800?
It came with the 7800 I got on eBay just to do the stream, but
interesting. Yeah, I've never seen that one.
And that is obviously the official 7800 controller. So we'll start with this one. What do these switches next to the controller ports do?
They're like option switches. I think they tend to be used for difficulty. The only thing I can really think which is a bit weird with those is if you play Nebulous or Tower Toppler, as it's called in the 7800, if you have one of those switches the wrong way, every level just auto-completes, and then it finishes the game, which is a bit weird.
Oh,
but otherwise, difficulty.
You know, I've never actually used a 7800 before. I owned one at one point and went to do an RGB mod, and then I just ended up having to sell everything. So this is going to be a totally new experience for me.
Yeah, it's a good machine. I'd never used one, I don't think. Maybe once or something in the past before starting on this. No label on that one. I did wonder whether they'd come in or not. I didn't even know whether you had a printed cartridge shell. But yep, it's a nice injection molded shell.
The port in the side for the developers?
Debug port, yep. RGB video out on the front, or back as it is. It's a bit weird.
And it's going to be near impossible to get, but let me try to show people the beveled edge, just because that was just the snafu I was... Yeah. Yes!
It is beveled.
Yes, it is. Really hard to pick up on camera, but yeah, it is absolutely beveled. Both sides.
Indeed.
All right. Also, its connection is high enough, so if you have any weird Genesis 2 cables, it's more than enough room for that to be there. It's not like going to be sitting on the console or anything like that, so that's good. So let me just start with a basic Genesis 2 C-Sync cable, because that is pretty sure to work. And let's fire it up and see what happens with no SD card in it, because that's how I fired it up last time.
So that's just a standard component Genesis cable.
It is just a standard RGB SCART cable.
Oh, you got a SCART. Ooh, okay. I don't expect to see SCART in the US, I must admit. But I quite like SCART.
All right, I got the Tink plugged in, and I just have to, I have everything run through my manual HDMI switch, so I could toggle back and forth between my camera and the Tink, which we will be doing quite a bit, because I'm going to be showing gameplay, and then at the end, we're going to be showing something kind of fun for anybody who, anybody who's a retro nerd is going to really appreciate the silliness at the end. All right, so.
Okay.
Jack said those Wiko joysticks were popular back in the day, especially for the Commodore 64. There's only one button, the top and bottom button are the same, so not great for 7800 if so. Well, we'll definitely check that just for the hell of it, but yeah, I had no interest in that controller, it just came with the console. So, and the guy said he wasn't going to sell it any cheaper, console only, so why not send it over?
It may be one that's 2600 compatible, so it does work with it, but you'll only have a single button.
RGB SCART. Powering the sucker up.
Nice.
And actually, somebody was asking about an HDMI switch. Let me see if I still have. Hold on, let me see what this is. I can't believe I don't.
Somebody doesn't realize that picture there, I assume, is through the AV out port on the cartridge, as opposed to the console at this point.
Yeah. So the Restart Point wanted to know a link to a good manual HDMI switch. They have an auto one, but it adds lag. Very rare that HDMI switches add lag. It would actually have to have a buffer on it, and it would cost a lot more to make with a buffer. So that's very strange. Maybe you got one that's like a switch, but also has 1080p scaling built in or something. But I would take a look at that video I did a while back that where I went over some HDMI switches that I loved because they were both matrix switches. I'll drop a link in the chat to that. The one I'm using is no longer, the brand I bought is no longer sold, which I guess is why it's not in the Amazon store, but it is just a dumb, 1x2 manual switch, which means it can go in either direction. And I love it because there's only been one scenario ever where it didn't work. Because it's almost the same as unplugging and replugging an HDMI cable. All right, so it says, please insert memory card. So what happens if I plug in a memory card without any of the boot files on it? Does it? Let's see if this tells me what to do here. So I'm going to power it off.
Quite an old version of the firmware on there currently, so I can't remember what. It should work fine, but I've added some additional niceties as time has gone on.
Okay, press start for firmware updates.
Yeah, so in that case, you've either got start I refer to there is on the 7800, the Mega Drive controller via the Mega 7800, or hit reset on the console, which is effectively used as start as well.
Okay, reset on the controller on the console doesn't seem to do anything. Select
once you
does
get
though.
To where it says, yeah, there we go. Once when you're booting the console, when the message comes up saying hit.
Oh, okay. So let me power off.
You have to do it as it's booting. This is all part of like the two-stage boot. You've got the boot, the initial bootloader.
Gotcha.
Then you press it. Oh, there we go. You can press it twice. So press it once more. That will take you to the actual link. So if you press reset, there we go. That's one of the things. Funnily enough. I do occasionally get messages about is people have hit it twice and are wondering why the random's bloody serial number doesn't do something useful when updating the firmware. So yeah, you've just shown something I do have comments about. So there is a firmware update link, which is that screen, and then there's also the serial number screen for if I needed to for any reason to do anything specific with somebody's cartridge.
Hey, Kevin. Kevin wants to know if the cart's on sale yet. Kevin, my dumbass forgot to update the YouTube description and only updated the the website post. I'm sorry. No, this is a pre-sale demo that we're going to be that should be on sale probably this week or next week. Let me update the title right now. My apologies.
Stock will be going out within the next couple of days to everybody, so it's then down to the retailer whether they want to start pre-orders sooner or whether they just do it when they get stock in. So it's imminent, basically.
Yeah, my apologies. So I also apparently forgot to add the. It's weird. I'm off today. Either I'm off today or the website's glitchy. But all right, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Hey, Oliver, how's it going? Thank you so much for the super chat. Much, much appreciated. Oliver says, can't wait to order. If people can donate to Bob, and if people can donate to Bob, his work organizing people and info in the retro scene is worth it. Thank you so much, Oliver. That's really, really nice of you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely true. And yeah, Oliver, I recognize your name. And yeah, thank you. I'm glad everybody's quite excited for this thing to come out. It's taken quite a long time to get to this point, so I'm excited and quite nervous, to be honest. It's always slightly nerve-wracking the first few getting out there, and whether there are going to be any odd hidden issues. But yeah, it's been well tested.
So could we talk for a minute about the firmware update itself? So the reason that you're doing this is it locks the firmware to each cartridge to prevent cloning, but by doing it this way, you don't require people to create a login. People would just have to use the QR code or manually type in the web address, so you don't have to worry about any of the BS of signing up for accounts. Anybody could buy and resell this cart as long as it's an official cart to get the firmware for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just as you say, a reasonably simple measure against cloning. Nothing's been cloned yet, but then again, I tend to create stuff for slightly more niche markets. So I think it's probably of lesser interest to any cloners, to be honest. But yes, that is the crux of it all. It's each cartridge then is just its own thing. As long as you've got an original cartridge, you will always be able to get firmware updates just by following the link. And one thing that's quite nice is when you follow the link, it will tell you if there's a firmware update available. You don't need to download something randomly and see if it works. You will be told whether you've got the latest firmware, which is quite nice.
So my very strong opinion is that is an absolutely excellent way to go about it. It's going to be annoyed that they have to use a phone and a QR code and then email themselves a link. But if anybody has ever dealt with that one very specific company where you need to have a different account for their support, a different account for their firmware, a different account for something else, and then everything is locked to that account. So if you sell your ROM cart, which you legally purchased, which you have then sold to somebody who has legally bought from you, who is not a cloner, you still have to go through the trouble of messing with all that. So I guess if people haven't dealt with that, this might seem a bit much, but if they have dealt with that, it's going to be like, wow, that's awesome. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, I think people will be gradually getting a bit more used to it as well, because every one of my cartridges follows exactly the same procedure of hitting, a button during boot, following a QR code. They look identical, so, it should become second nature, I hope.
All right, so let's check out, what game do you think I should start with for a 7800 game? Actually, and you recommended that ROM pack.
You've got stuff like Ball Blazer shows off the pokey for the retail set.
And let me just set this to 1080p under, so that we could position it more so we don't cut the game off and we don't cut you off. So let's go. Nice. So which game did you suggest?
Vote of confidence there, Oliver. That's much appreciated. Ball Blazer's quite good in that it shows off the pokey, which is that's one of those things which lots of other cartridges don't have built in. Is the pokey or the YM2151 audio? So this has got both built in. I'm not hearing any audio here, but I don't know whether I will be on this.
You probably won't be able to. If anybody in the
Yeah.
stream could let us know, I think that would be a pretty great
I'll turn
way
the
to...
volume on the stream.
So did I accidentally start in 2-player mode, or is there supposed to be...
Yeah, you probably will have done. I do that regularly. I think you press select to change between 1 and 2 player and stuff.
I'm going to turn the audio up on the game, and that way we can kind of see. Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. I can hear it. I'll just switch to the stream. That's cool.
So if I tap reset on the console, it goes to... Oh, okay.
Yep.
So what am I doing? How do I play this game?
I haven't played it a huge amount, but it looks impressive. Basically, it's kind of like football or whatever, where you've got to catch that ball, and then you're running or floating, I guess, to the goal on the other side. I can't remember whether hitting a button, one of the buttons rotates you 90 degrees. I've got a feeling it might do. And then you can fire the ball with the other button, I think is the way. And then you've started in 2-player mode, I think, so the other guy would normally be player controlled. You can start with that control.
Funny, neither of these buttons are actually working. Maybe it's that switch on the console?
The which controller are you using? The Pro
The official 7800 controller.
Yeah, mine's terrible. I think they're dome switches on those, and they go on the 2 trigger buttons. So mine, one of the buttons basically doesn't work at all. So if something's not working very well, it might be the controller. They're not very reliable.
All right, so I think this is a perfect time to do a little pause here. Let's go back to the menu and let's see if we could find... I knew there was some test software, so let's see if we can get a white screen or a color bars or something. And let's check the RGB output of this thing, and then we'll move on to the other device that you have today, the Mega 7800, and then we'll go back and play some games. But let's go back here. Well, at least we know one of these buttons is working, because I wouldn't be able to select all this if it wasn't. Tools and serviced.
Oh, cool. I don't think I've really looked through this. There's so much 7800 stuff out there.
See.
Nice.
Well, looking for an all-white screen, so if there's any, if there are any experts in the in 7800 Homebrew, please let me know on this one. BB fan said 7800 controllers are barely better than the 5200 ones.
I just got to that comment, and yeah.
Those are pretty bad too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Probably graphics modes test.
Don't know why that's not doing anything.
Well, that's why people send stuff to me. If it can be broken, I will break it.
Seem to hang on the loading. Yeah, normally if headers are wrong, you just get it not working, basically.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. Dan says, busy with work, but wanted to support or show their support. Thank you. That's really nice of you. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah, of course. It's it's reasonably early wherever you are. It's about 3:30 here. So, yeah. Yeah, the Atari box works as well.
All right, maybe it's maybe there's something in the 2600 folder that could help us. And if not, at the very least, we could just show on the scope, double check sync, just to let people know that it's safe to use. I'm sure it is, James. I'm not doubting you, but you know, this is one of these things that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. No, I was just going to say it's the same as the composite video, so it's exactly the same signal. So it's I can't remember 1.2 volts ish or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's quite low.
Come on.
You can hack
Does
and
button 2 do anything in these menus?
It should go. It should bring up another menu if you press the right button.
It does not, so you're correct.
Yeah,
This
you go.
controller's
Yeah, your
probably
controller's broken.
messed up.
Yeah. I have had some interesting stuff as well with my PAL 7800, I think it is, where the second port on it is a bit broken. So the buttons end up giving ghost clicks basically. So I put another option in the kind of in the global menu stuff, such that you can turn on and off which controllers control the UI, because you can actually control the UI with either controller port if you want to, or you can lock it to one, which in my case was purely because my console was broken.
So, for anybody who is not familiar with what I'm about to do, I'm going to give you the 2-second crash course in this because I want my fellow nerds to get it, but I also don't want to bore everybody else to death. What we're doing is double checking that the signal that's coming out of this cart is safe to use on basically everything. And you would think that that's something that shouldn't be a problem, but you'd be surprised at how many devices are out there that are not very safe. So we could measure the sync voltage. We can't really measure video voltage, but if the video voltage was too high, all of the images that we just saw would be completely and totally washed out. So that's not a problem whatsoever. That's totally fine. Maybe it's a little high or a little low, but that would not at all ever affect this. A few millivolts would not affect safety. Whereas it's very common for the sync line to actually end up being too high. And let me see what we got here too. So it actually looks like let me get my trigger set so it's less wiggly. It looks like it's at 171 millivolts, which is incredibly low. So did you, on this circuit, compensate for how all Genesis 2 cables have a resistor on the sync line?
No. Does the Genesis, I think that normally outputs something crazy like 5 volts on the sync line, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's kind of the good and bad about using a Genesis 2 mini DIN for something like this. The good is that there are so many places to get quality cables. You can get good HDMI adapters. You can get good component video adapters. But the bad is you essentially have to set this DIN up to output wrong spec'd video. So if somebody uses a correct Genesis 2 cable, everything's fine. But if somebody just wires up something to that, you're actually sending too high voltage. So it is kind of a gamble, but...
No, it's interesting. I've tried it with the HD retro cables, component cable stuff, and through the Tink using component. So it all works perfectly.
So is there a physical resistor on this inside, or is this done in like an FPGA so you can configure the voltage output?
It's the voltage divider is such that the composite video output is correct, or yes, the composite video output is correct, because the actual sync is, I think, generally done by the composites. Am I getting this the right way around? I think it's generally done by the composite sync output, which is the correct voltage, but some of the, I think it's actually RetroVision cables use the composite video connection, so those are basically being joined. So yeah, in that respect, I'm not 100% sure. The voltage divider can certainly be easily changed. There's just 2 resistors, so it's just a matter of switching those over in terms of changing the voltage going out to the sync. But yeah, that's something I'll have to check on.
So here is by the way, here is hold on, let me get it. We are seeing, this is sync on composite video cable right now. And let me see if I can get the scope sort of in focus, kind of, sort of. So what we're seeing is that it's also working as sync on composite. Let me get the voltage on that as well. The centering on this is off, as it very often is. Come on, let me, there we go.
That one should look normal, I think.
So you're not putting composite video through the composite video port. You're just putting sync through both. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's effectively the composite video signal, but with no actual video information. It's purely the sync pulses.
Okay, so this is actually something that you're going to want to take a look at. So this is probably going to be too high. This is 1.2 volts under 75 ohm load.
Yep.
So that's not good, because that means if somebody's got a sync-on composite cable and they go directly into a scaler, that's right at the limit. That's probably not blow your scaler out, but that's definitely not the target range.
Okay. Yeah, from what as I remember when I looked at it, it was toward the high level, but I thought that was in the safe range. But I'll take a look at that.
It's one of those things where it's just cutting it a little too close. Where the chances of somebody actually doing damage are slim to none. But wouldn't you just want it at none? I guess is a better way to put it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me double check here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to unplug this monitor and only use the scope, and I'm going to use the 75 ohm termination that's built into the RG bench here. So let me double check this. It's very weird. I'm not really showing a difference with termination on or off. That doesn't really make sense. So let me swap to a different cable to double check, because maybe this is something I'm doing wrong. Maybe my scope is funky. That is one thing I've definitely found with these Rigel DS1054Zs. For the price, they're absolutely awesome, but occasionally you got to power cycle them for no apparent reason whatsoever. All right, so
the RGB side of it's not something I've looked at in quite a long time now.
So composite, so the C-Sync, the composite sync pin on the Genesis Mini DIN output, with no load on it whatsoever, it's 1.2 volts, which is, believe it or not, a little too low. You flip the 75 ohm termination on it, which is the proper termination, and that's when you get, sorry, hold on, let me get my trigger here. That's when it gets down to about 175 millivolts, which is definitely too low. When I say too low, there's zero chance in that harming anything, but maybe like if you're still using a FrameMeister, that won't sync. We'll try different components in a minute. However, here's what's weird, and here's where we start to bounce up against my limitation of understanding how these things work. Here is the cable that syncs on the composite video pin. And while the game drive doesn't output composite video, it outputs sync on that pin for compatibility reasons, we should be able to get a different reading here. So I'm going to plug this in. Let me lower this down. All right, so we have a reading here, and it's saying same 1.2 volts, but it's not changing under 75 ohm load, which makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, that makes no sense because it's the same driver. Other than the cable's going to be wired differently, I guess, on that pin.
Mr. Silent Vid, 1 volt is the standard for composite video, but not if you're putting it through a device that's designed to just handle sync, which is why it's right at that line. So this should be fine with everything where I'm about to plug into it, but that's very strange, and I wish there was somebody smarter than I am that is an expert at analog video signals that could explain this for me, because I don't think I've ever seen that before. So this switch right here toggles 75 ohm sync on, or the 75 ohm termination on and off. You know, let me, there's one other thing we could try. Let me actually use a 75 ohm terminator on it to see if that makes a difference, because I can't imagine why that wouldn't lower the sync when you turn that on.
Bill Thompson is saying it's kind of like the RGB blaster. Yeah, it is. This cart is basically like having an RGB blaster built in, rather than having a separate cartridge. When I developed the RGB side of things a couple of years ago now, I think, and then eventually ended up emulating the entire of the Maria chip to get the video out to work, and then at which point I had pins free on the FPGA on the cartridge, so I thought I might as well output video directly with the cartridge itself rather than having a separate product for RGB out, when I'd largely be sort of duplicating the hardware in one device in another for no real reason. So it's ended up being an all-in-one type solution instead. Plenty of people have asked for a separate RGB output of some kind, so I may end up doing an internal mod for RGB, possibly. Probably not an external one though, just because the 700 GD will actually play basically everything. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Really, it's down a lot to component availability. Lattice is still a bit low.
I'm just going to grab a third cable here, just to crazy proof myself, because I've never seen this before ever. So here. All right, so I'm not sure if you're able to see this on stream. So let me, so I could bring this a little closer at least. So if you look over at the scope right here, that square pattern right here is what this voltage is without any 75 ohm termination in the end. This is a 75 ohm terminator. And when I just stick it on the end, it's way smaller. And that's with a sync on C-sync cable. So that's exactly what it's supposed to be like. So let me just grab one last time. Here's something that syncs on composite video. And I probably have one more of these that I could try and hunt down. But here's what I'm not understanding that might cause issues, which we'll find out in a second. So here's that same wave signal with the termination on. Nothing changes when I take the 75 terminator off. I've never seen that before. BFA, there's nothing in the cable. Good question, but that's kind of one of the point of these. So that's really interesting. That's something that we're going to want to double check. But let's keep going for compatibility now and sort of see where we're at. So let me grab my box of scalers. And let's just start going through and seeing what's what here. So I'll try the OSSC now, but I couldn't possibly imagine there would ever be a problem with the OSSC.
It does work with the correct profiles. I don't know. They were going to be posted up on the Atari Age. There's lots of the support side of things, which is I'm only just kind of getting sorted out now. That hasn't gone up yet. So yeah, it certainly works with the appropriate profiles, but I don't think it just will automatically work, as far as I can tell. It doesn't. Well, the version of OSSC I have didn't seem to like to auto-sync. However, one of the guys who does the testing uses one, and he has a setup which works fine with both NTSC and PAL machines. Is that through the OSSC?
That is through the OSSC.
Oh,
a little wobbly, but
it works. You may have a newer revision than mine.
That's a little wobbly through the sync
wiggly,
on sync on composite. So let me try the sync on C-Sync cable as well. I mean, it could very well be that the sync issues were because of the odd voltages too. So we will go through kind of all of these. Yeah, so it's not syncing at all on the C-Sync cable, and that's because the voltage is a little bit too low for most devices.
Interesting. Yeah, with the appropriate profiles, well, I assume, no, sure, I suppose it might be using the other cable. Entirely depends on what the cable is.
All right, let's keep trying other devices and check for compatibility here. But so is this something that could be changed before it hits? Like, are they still in production? Are they en route to the places right now?
The first batch is done and ready to ship out, basically. I mean, by all means, I could go back and kind of delay it. The RGB SCART side of things, which is my main test in terms of CRTs, has been all good. And likewise, the testers using OSSC and TINC and so forth. Everything in that respect is working fine. But equally, obviously, the US is a different thing in terms of video standards, as in what's most commonly used.
Well, I mean, I think even in the UK, there's just a giant amount of people that don't want to deal with CRTs anymore, and they're using the same exact scalers that we would be using here. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It works okay with the OSSC, the guys over here who use it. But yeah, by the sounds of it, whether the reason you need profiles which are a little bit more detailed is down to low sync voltage, I'm not sure. Because
we could probably try that at the end. I would just want to do it at the end in case I break anything. So here is a RAD2X. You're just trying that out. I'm going to power the console off when I plug this in. I don't know why. I'm just going to do it that way.
Yeah, I always do. If I change any cables, I power it off.
All right, we're powering it on. We can see the light go from red to purple, so it is detecting it properly. And I'm not going to bother correcting the aspect ratio or anything. Ooh. Sorry about that to everybody on stream who just heard that fuzz. So this is not detecting the signal properly at all. And that's...
What I'd be interested to know is how much is related to sync jitter as well. I don't know.
Probably a lot.
Is like. That's my biggest issue with the 7800 video output. Is the VSync is really jittery. The problem is Maria. The way they've dealt with the fact that you've got a 2600 and a 7800 like chipset in the same machine is that they slow the clock down. They literally stretch the clock signal when the machine is accessing older parts of the system. So the 2600 bits of the hardware, it literally stretches the CPU clock, and you end up actually losing partial clock cycles whilst it's messing around, stretching and returning the CPU clock. And that means you end up getting a jittery sync on the VSync because there isn't an equal number of clock cycles per frame. So yeah, these bits of hardware were never kind of designed with any form of modern TV standard in mind, that's for sure. They, as I say, certainly work very well on CRTs from everything I've tried, but my Bravia's one thing I always cite as being an absolute nightmare. They refuse to sync at all, even with like one clock cycle dropped. They are just a nightmare. Yeah, I plug the same signal from the OSSC in this case into my monitors, and they work fine. So much is down to your sync, your TV or monitor with HDMI, which is a real git. Which is why I kind of said the RetroTink is very good in this respect, because it's got the frame buffer mode. So therefore, if there is any sync instability, then that can sort that out for you.
Okay, so it's working on the RetroTink 2X SCART with the sync on C-Sync cable. So let me switch over to the sync on composite cable. Also, Matthias in the chat, please check the description. These carts are not available for sale yet. This is like a pre-sale, let's check this thing out before it goes on sale stream. But if you want, you could sign up for notification on all those sites in order to get it when it does come in.
Yeah, they will be available within the next kind of few days, beginning of next week, end of this week, along those lines. Again, especially in the UK, they're going to be stock will be sort of next day arriving with them, so it's all very imminent.
So this is very odd. The RetroTink 2X SCART is essentially the same circuit that's inside the RAD 2X.
That's exactly what I was just going to query, because I thought they were the same.
Yeah, I don't really know what that was all about, but that does work. I do have a very old RAD 2X though. I have the very first ones that were out. So it could just be that whatever one I was testing is too old and not with the updated stuff on it. But, you know, we could certainly try it again. I wanted to jump over to the 2X SCART just to verify that before kind of spending any more time. But now that we know that that works, let's try this again. And I could be wrong, but I think that the Genesis RAD 2X syncs on C-Sync, whereas many of the other ones sync on composite video for compatibility reasons, which is the right thing to do. But that would actually make that, if that's the case, that would make sense with this. Oh wait, no, here we go.
Is that the one that didn't work earlier?
That's the one that did not work.
Yeah, there you go.
So
that's the RAD 2X.
So that's got to be it. The sync is really low, and you might just have to reboot it a couple times to see. As you can see, it's working, and there's no more audio hiss like there was before. In fact, let me load up a game or something real quick just to show everybody that the RAD 2X is working. You might just have to reboot it a couple times for this original batch or something.
And picture looks nice and...
Oh, it's going to be completely off-centered because I didn't recalibrate it to this this console. Oh,
sure if you were running a power
so I just power cycled, and that's what you saw happen. Oh, wait a minute.
The garbage.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. I think I figured out what the issue might be. So... Oh, let me... The RAD 2X seems to be getting power from the HDMI side when the 7800 is off. So, see that light? We're going to unplug the HDMI. Light is off. Let's plug this in. Let's power it on first with the 7800. Then plug the HDMI cable in, and now use it. So that could just be the only... there could have never been an issue with the game drive. This could have all just been because, for whatever reason, I was getting power on the HDMI cable first.
Weird.
And now this should be exactly what you would expect.
If you're using a regular joystick, oh no, your buttons don't work, do they? I was going to say you can hold both buttons down and pull down on the stick for about 2 or 3 seconds, and it'll bring up the menu.
Okay. Both buttons and down on the stick?
Yeah, if you hold both... Oh, there we go. It does work. So that's how you break into the game, and then you can return to the menu, or, yeah. The audio volumes only work when you're connected via the AV out port.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this off right now, though, because I don't want anybody else confused. BB Fan Fun, the reason there was a horizontal stretch is because I went from one scaler that was providing a 16 by 9 image to another scaler that wasn't. So that's why it looked stretched. It was because I didn't reset my OBS settings. It has nothing to do at all with the 7800, the game drive. So that's why this is just a compatibility test at the moment just to see, and Rad2X totally works. Let's switch over to HD RetroVision cables. And
quick response to Matthias. So how much RAM does the game drive have? Which bank switching modes are supported? So it's got 1 megabyte of SRAM on the cartridge. It supports basically all bank switching from the newer bank set modes for Homebrew. It's got Super Game up to 1 megabyte. It's got all of the additional Super Game plus RAM. It's got even stuff like Rescue on Fractalis, the prototype game. It's got that in there as well, so that'll run. It's got Ricky and Vicky's Super Mapper, so it's the only cart which will run Ricky and Vicky. Yeah, basically everything. Oh, another question. BB Fan Fun onboard pokey? Yes, it's got dual pokey on board. It's also got YM2151 support as well by JT. So yeah, it's got all possible audio and video kind of support you could possibly want, all from the one device, and it's all done on the FPGA as well. So if any updates need doing, I can do them and just push them out. So Commando will be a pokey. Yep.
So this is the standard RetroTink 2X Pro, and this is with HD RetroVision cables, and this just proves that both work, both the HD RetroVision and the 2X Pro. I'm going to switch this back to the RetroTink 5X so we don't have any more confusion over aspect ratio. And to whoever mentioned that, I'm not teasing you. I'm just being literal. I don't want people to jump on the stream halfway through and be like, why the hell is the image stretched? Is that the game drive? Which, nope, it's my laziness. I don't want to reset, and I also don't want to waste everybody's time resetting the aspect ratio on OBS between every video processor. And the last time I messed with resolutions in OBS, last 2 times I crashed the stream. So let's not do that. All right, so basically every scaler works with it. The OSSC, all of the Tinks, the Rad2X, they all seem to work totally fine. The only issue is potentially the sync voltage and the open source scan converter. That would be it. So I'm not worried about this, but that's one of those things where if you could correct that in future revisions, it would be very nice. Yep, but this is not a recall scenario. This is not a, oh my God, you're going to explode people's consoles scenario. It's absolutely not any of that at all. This is just more of like a, just like every product that's ever made, your second run of production is going to have a tweak or two. It's just the way it is. So what I would like to show now is how to not use this piece of crap controller anymore. Which this one started to work. I guess maybe it just hadn't been used in so long it needed to be messed with. But here's the other thing that James sent over. And we could go back and try this controller at another point if anybody actually wants to, but it's probably not going to be great.
Quickly answer another question that's come in. Where was it? Possible to configure the pokey address? Yep. In the headers for the ROMs, you've got A78 is the file format for Atari 7800 games. I've done a lot of work with Reveng on Atari Age, who does all of the 7800 header XE, so you can modify header bits, I think 700, and all of the configuration bits for supporting pokey at 440, 430, 800, whatever. All of that sort of stuff are in the header. You just set the correct header bits, and it all works. There we go. Oh, he's got the sticker as well. Nice. So, yeah, all of the cases for these are injection molded. I've bitten the bullet, as they say, and got injection molding stuff for all of the cases for the 7800 stuff. So, yeah, really nice. Really pleased with them.
So somebody just asked, they have an OSSC, but they're not sure how to fit this comfortably into their setup. So what I would suggest is hang on to the end of this stream, because I have a feeling that we would be able to come up with a quick fix if it doesn't work with your OSSC and some other opinions. But I have a feeling, this is going to be pretty easy to integrate. Hey, Real Phoenix, 8-Bit Esquire, what's going on? So, James, would you please explain to people why you have a device that can plug into itself? Because since the pins are the same, clearly it's the same exact port, right?
Yeah, this is the conversion from the Mega Drive or Genesis to allow you to use all of the buttons basically on the 7800. The reason for this was I wasn't all that keen on having to like hold both buttons down and pull down for a couple of seconds to get to the menus. I don't know. I just found it a bit naff. So I was trying to find a decent way of doing it. And of course, if you're using an emulator, you'd hit effectively start, go back into the menus, do all your stuff. So I looked at what was out there in terms of being able to use the the Mega Drive controllers with the 7800. There wasn't anything that met my kind of exacting requirements. So I came up with the Mega 7800, which is an adapter which allows you to use any of the Sega era stuff. So the Mega Drive 3 and 6-button pads, the Master System joypads, control sticks, and also the Sega Light Phaser as well. So it will let you use
why is this needed? Is it voltage? Is it pinout? Is it all of the above? Since, while I was being sarcastic and a bit facetious before, can you explain to people why is it that this Genesis controller will actually fit into the input of the 7800, but it won't work?
Yeah, the pinout is different. I got a vague memory that if you plug the Mega Drive controller into a 7800, I think it works in terms of you can use one button. But I think it might even be reversed, so you hold it down and then let go to fire kind of thing. So basically, yeah, the pinout's different. Atari had their set pinout, which they basically maintained to a degree through their consoles and home computers. The 7800's a bit weird because they sort of shoehorned in a 2-button mode over the top of the 2600's 1-button mode, but they maintained backward compatibility with the 2600 with the 7800 controllers. So it's a little bit funky. So there's a little microcontroller in the Mega 7800 which reads all of the buttons on the Mega Drive pad, and then allows the 7800 to either use those normally, as in if you've got a standard 7800 game which uses 2 buttons, then buttons A and B on the Genesis or Mega Drive controller will operate as you'd expect. But equally, I can read all of the buttons on the controller as well. So one thing I do on the 7800 is I break into the game's code every frame, and I poll the controller which is attached via the Mega 7800 and let you do extra stuff if you've got a Mega Drive pad connected. So you can just hit start and it will go into the menu. You don't have to hold both buttons down and pull down for 2 seconds. So
how do you switch really modes again?
It depends on what you've got plugged in.
Genesis 3-button controller.
Yep. Is that a 6 there or a 3? No, that's a 3. So, yep.
So, does it automatically detect, or would I have to switch it myself?
No, auto detect. Whatever you plug in there, the light will change color to tell you what it thinks is plugged in. So hopefully that's turning the right color.
All right. So let's power it off.
The purpley color, 3-button. Yeah, that sounds.
Power it back on again.
Yep.
I think it's working. So let's flip it over and take a look. Did I remember to set the input? Haha. Yeah. Always a good reason as to why things won't work properly. So let's play. What was that? Ball Blazer was the one that you recommended before that we opened with.
For the pokey. Right, sorry, I can let the dog out again. Stop raining. No one here.
Oh yeah, BB Fan Fun. We're definitely doing that before the end of the stream. No doubt. So when I'm selecting this human
If you press select on the console, then you'll be able to choose between CPU or human control. So yeah, you've got Droid 1 and Droid Droid 9, Droid 6. It keeps changing. In Droid 1, so you can actually select it such that the computer will play itself.
So I'm gonna hit reset real quick. So it says human.
Yep.
So how would I change it for?
I think if you press select, there you go. Now press reset or start, and then you'll have one droid versus. Sorry, on the console. Too many starts.
Okay,
so if you press select now.
No, I just hit.
There you go, droid human. There you go. So that should be, there we go. Top is top CPU or are you moving?
Top's me.
Oh, droid should be bottom then. I don't know, I'm not quite sure why it's not. I haven't played Ball Blazer in a bit, but I do remember it being a bit weird to select to actually get a computer.
Let me try that one more time, and then I'll just kind of give up.
It says droid versus human. That's one thing you tend to. Well, I certainly tend to find with a lot of the older games, the user interface isn't entirely obvious.
Oh, I think I might know. I think I might have to be plugged into the other port for that to work like that. That's a very Atari-esque thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, let's power this back up.
And you might, once you've made a selection, it might be you press a button on the controller as opposed to a button on the console. I can't remember. It's one of the two.
By the way, I have this plugged into the second port, and I was still able to go through and access the menu. So, great addition, James.
Yeah, that's one of those things that was requested quite a lot with all my previous stuff. So we've tried to get it in there from the beginning.
You know, I think I'm just going to hook up the original other controller to the first port to make this happen. Because now I'm not even really into this game, but now I just want to know. All my nerd brain's kicking in, and I just want to know. All right. Reset. Select.
I was reading through the comments again. I'm useless. I keep getting sidetracked. So 8-Bit Esquire. Don't want Purge. Wait for a long time for this. Yeah, I've been really looking forward to getting this thing out. It's been taking forever.
I'm on the bottom.
And the BB Fun Lycan. Yes, the Sega Zapper. This will work with the standard Sega Light Phaser. There's lots of kind of instructions about how to convert them from convert the pin out to work with the 7800. But yeah, this device will do it automatically, so you don't need to mess around with wiring. And the Sega Light Phasers are still really easy to get hold of on eBay, whereas the Atari stuff is next to impossible. In the time I was looking for it, I couldn't find one. Whereas the Sega Light Phaser stuff was really easy to get hold of.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch games. That was interesting, but not really my cup of tea.
It's really quite cool in that it's really early attempt at 3D and everything, and it does do quite a good job of it. But I can't say I've ever really got into the game as a game.
Hey, what's going on, Felipe? Thanks for joining. So, most of these really just like Atari 2600 games that were ported over?
Nope.
And
no, they're all pretty good. I can't remember whether it's a Curry. That starts off as 2 players. I think Curry Warriors. You've got to be really careful on all the menus with 7800 games. I can't remember whether it's Curry Warriors or Commando. I thought was really quite good. Yeah. When you're playing, press Z on the controller. If you've got.
I just have a standard Genesis controller with ABC.
I was gonna. Right. I was gonna demo the quick save functionality because you can save state when you're playing the game. So if you hit Z, when you're playing the game, it's save state, and then if you die, you can just.
I mean, I have a
Y
6-button controller right here if you want me to use it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to.
Let me go grab one. Just need 1 second.
Stuff. That was one thing I was thinking with the Genesis controller, and it's got so many buttons which you don't really have a use for. I only needed start really, and I use C in the menus to go back, directories and stuff like that. But then you've got like X, Y, and Z just sitting there doing nothing. So I implemented a quick save and a quick load on Z and Y, which is really quite handy.
All right, I am back with the 6-button controller.
Lovely British summer going on here. It's pissing down with rain. Nice, that should do the job. Quick question on the Matthias firmware update. Also possible, so it'd be possible to add new bank switching methods if needed. Yep, absolutely. Adding additional bank switching modes and so on for Homebrew is not a problem. So you should be able to press Z on the controller to do a quick save. There you go. And so if you now run around a bit and press Y, you will be back exactly where you were. So it's really handy. I mean, it's brilliant for testing because you can obviously just keep saving, and then if you find an issue and you happen to be next to it, you can just reload. So it's been really, really helpful. And then of course, as you play, you can just spam Z and save. You can also hit start and then go in and save your state through the menus, and then that way it's got 10 save slots, I think. And you know, if you particularly wanted to save a position in the game to return to later, then you can use one of the slots. Oh yeah, and we've got cheats, of course. This is something which Gent, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it, over on Emu Cheats. I think that's the right Discord server and website is found for me. Yeah, it's been really helpful. So these are what they kind of call RAM cheats. So every frame I break into the game anyway to hold the controller. So with the cheats, I can also write to memory addresses. So in this case, there's a load of places in memory which are your bullets, your grenades and stuff like that. So every frame, it just overwrites the number. You can see the 9998 on the gun just flicking down, and that's where the number has been decremented and then just being overwritten again the next frame. So infinite ammo, infinite grenades, there's loads of stuff, and there's I can't remember, 30 odd games or something already with cheats available on there. So it's been really quite cool.
That is pretty awesome. Wow, that's a very high jump.
Games. Yeah, I find it so weird seeing Nintendo games on Atari. There's a good homebrew version of this as well.
Does Miss Pac-Man actually look like Miss Pac-Man? Oh, warning, known break problems.
Known break problems, here we go. You'll see that there is glitching if you play through a little bit, and I think it's when you go toward the top of the screen. You'll see the screen starts glitching out every now and again. There you go.
Ah, yeah, okay.
So this is one of these issues where, because I'm breaking into the game code every frame and doing some stuff, then there are certain instances where when I break in, it's doing something important which needs to happen right then and there. and in this case it's something to do with twiddling values for the video on Maria, and it gets delayed and it gives you glitching. So in this case I'm warning you, it's not, you know, it's not destroying the game, so you may wish to play it with break still enabled, because now you can still save the game, you can still go back to the menu, you can still select different games and so on and so on. But if you launch the game by hitting B on the controller, or the right button on the Pro line, then it gives you the secondary menu, and you can choose to turn break off at this point, and then it will run the game without break, and you won't have any of the crash, any of the, you know, the buggy issues. So if you move left to right, there you go, and then just go down to start game, you won't get any of the issues. It will warn you anyway, but you won't get any issues with the glitching. But you won't equally be able to press start to get back to the menu.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? Thanks for joining. It's early for you.
Yeah, I think it's Just Miss Pac-Man is one of the few games which does actually have an issue with break. There's very few which do, but weirdly there's a lot of Miss Pac-Man checks. I think the main reason is the source code for Miss Pac-Man is available on GitHub, so I think a lot of people have kind of played around with stuff and rebuilt their own versions and so on. And yeah, so hence this issue is prevalent in all of the versions. It's something I could probably work around, but yeah, not something I've looked into yet.
But didn't glitch out when I turned break off, so that's fine.
No, absolutely. It just means you've got to power cycle the console.
That also means no in-game reset or a new in-game menu at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's I can't detect what the user's doing, so yeah.
Totally fine. Just confirming. Just confirming.
Ninja Golf's weird. I don't know if you've ever played it.
No, but I just figured Ninja Golf? I kind of have to try it.
It's how it sounds. It's quite ridiculous. You've hit into the rough. Initially on that little screen, the little section on the bottom left, you can change the angle you're firing your ball at. And then...
Killer frogs?
Yeah, obviously, depending on where you fire, you hit your ball, you get different enemies, and also you have to go a lot further, I think. You're hitting it more into the rough as well. If you look at the bottom left, when he looks like he's allegedly teeing off, then you can change the angle at which the ball's hit. So if you move the joystick left, right now, there you go.
Oh, I got
and
you.
You have to hit it when the dot gets to the not freeway. What's it called? The green bit.
This is ridiculous.
It is. It's great. It's a bizarre game. I think there were cheats for this as well. I think the last boss can be, if you've not played it before, moderately difficult to get by on the first go. But then I am really quite shit at games, to be honest. Especially stuff of this era. It's funny, I watch a lot of Mike Messiah playing stuff. I cannot believe how he manages to complete the stuff he does. It's just beyond me.
This is so ridiculous, yet I want to get to the end of the hole.
Exactly. It's really weird.
Like, I know somebody mentioned that game we were playing before, Ball Breaker or whatever, was more of a tech demo than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much of a game, really.
And it's cool, it's impressive, I'm glad we got to see it and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't really want to continue to mess with it. Whereas this one, like, it's silly and ridiculous, and I'm making fun of it, but I wanted to do this. I wanted to get to the end. I wanted to see what this was like.
I know exactly what you mean.
Because ninjas and dragons are something I always think about when I think of golf.
That's one of the great things about these cartridges is you can just play all of the weird stuff which is out there, and it's just about experiencing everything which is on the machine, as weird as it gets.
Yeah, I'm.
Strangely, I always like golf games. It's just something about them.
That just cracks me up.
Where it's got Rampage, it says AM. I think those should all work fine. Recently they added different. Yeah, that one's the OK one. If it says OP, I think it is, then that won't run. They've recently added what's basically a direct ROM dump from the ROMs on the cartridge to the ROM sets, and those are in an odd order in the ROM to make the address decoding logic work. So those don't actually work on any emulators or anything like that. I think they may have been moved into a different directory now, because that did confuse me a little bit when the last ROM set came out. These ROMs which didn't work. I just wondered what the hell was going on, whether I'd broken something. But yeah, that was just some additional stuff's been added. I really liked Rampage. On the ST, I played it a hell of a lot because you could do 3-player on the one machine.
The hit detection's quite interesting in this version.
Yeah, it's very block-based.
Huh. Ryan mentioned Double Dragon. Let's try this.
Double Dragon is alright, it's bloody hard. Again, there's a cheat for it, which makes it a little bit more playable. Again, Double Dragon is something I played to death on the ST multiplayer. I find this ridiculously difficult on this version. How about some Midnight Mutants? Yeah, so in the Nude Productions. Midnight Mutants I quite like. It's really slightly strange game. Yeah, it's kind of like an adventure type thing almost, but that's quite cool. I think the save functionality here is really quite useful. The comment about Pitfall 2, Matthias, wasn't on 7800, just 2600. Yep, but it will run on the game drive.
So can I fight these bats?
I don't think you can initially. I think you've got to go. I have played it a bit. There you go. If you go into the mansion through the door, then it might be over to the right. I can't remember. Talk to Grandpa, which is pressing B. Get the knife. Okay, West says to the left, I assume. So you have to basically go all the way to the left before you can cheat in this as well. You have to go all the way to the left to get a knife before you can do any damage. Reminds me a bit of like Friday the 13th or something on the NES. There you go. This is one of those games I'd like to have a bit more of a play with. It actually looks quite interesting.
Game is strange.
Hmm.
Like all of the
quite difficult.
Yeah, all of the walking is at an angle.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not the easiest game to play. Pitfall also runs with sound. Yes, the specific mapper for Pitfall 2, which was only used on Pitfall 2 that I'm aware of. I think they called it DPC. It's kind of a damp-proof course, I think, originally. But yes, so I've implemented the Pitfall 2 mapper on the 7800 GD, so it will play it with sound and everything else. So yeah, that's one of the few really specific 2600 mappers I've implemented. I think on this one you have to use the option switches on the console to pull up your landing gear and stuff like that. I've never been able
we
to
can
take
skip
off
this one
the
then.
never been able to take off on it. I'm assuming you can, but I've failed. There's a few games like that where I've just completely failed to even start and then sort of gave up. This is quite cool. Again, if you like golf games, this one's a bit more traditional. There's no ninjas. But it's, yeah, kind of a bit more like leaderboard, which is something I played quite a lot. Again, on the XT, and quite enjoyed. Again, there's a cheat for this. So you're always... I think you always complete on one stroke, I think.
That's pretty funny.
You're doing quite well there. So you'll be collecting instruction manuals there. Yeah, there definitely actually is need for instruction manuals on some of these games.
All right, so I'm gonna be a dirty cheater, and I'm gonna hit save. I'm gonna give this a try. Nope. So restore. All right, well, this is neat.
A different direction every time you hit it. Meltdown's a light gun game.
Oop, no, return. I guess I have to select it with a console then. All right.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few games where you have to hit reset to start the game, which again can be confusing as well. You might even need to press select. I know it's starting. Yeah, it's weird. There have been quite a few games where I literally haven't been able to kind of figure out to start it. At the minute, I think you're... There you go, you're choosing something. Press start or select... Oh, sorry, reset or select or...
Yeah, that's a no-go.
From 0 to... Yeah, it
pressed every button.
There's cheats. There's cheats for it as well.
Motor Psycho, I like the name.
That's not bad. That's actually quite good. It's going to be master on the 700 like the NES one. Yep, it's identical pretty much. I've seen the NES one being played, and yeah, I did think the 700 looked basically identical to me. I'm glad to see you're as good at these as I am.
Yep, absolutely.
It's not bad. You know, the road, the rendering and stuff is quite cool. I thought it's not a bad game, really. You know, bad looking game.
Gotta love that draw distance.
Goes off into the distance. Yeah, the 7800 was surprisingly powerful bit of kit, really, given when it came out, but it's quite difficult to make the most of it. Because I think stuff like the NES were a lot easier to get to grips with and get something going. So, yeah, some of the newer homebrew on the 7800 is quite impressive. Super Skateboarding is one I quite like as well. Another ridiculous game.
Another one I gotta hit select for.
I was going to say another one you have to press start, I think. Reset, sorry.
Alright.
So you're skateboarding through a factory, I think, turning everything off. And that's the game. So if you hit a button, you'll get onto your skateboard. Then every time you go past something, you turn it off. And of course, if you go past it again, you'll turn it back on. So you have to go through every room in this maze-like game and turn everything off, which I have done. I got obsessed with it for a period. Every time I went to test something, I ended up playing this. You have to pull down when you go to buy a tube to go up the tube. It's a weird game. I think you jump to get on it, press A, or whatever the left button is. and then pull down as you go.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And there are so many tubes going absolutely everywhere. It is so easy to get lost.
All right. Well, neat. Very neat. Let's see
weird.
if we could actually fly in the Tomcat game.
I'm not convinced I've ever managed to take off on this. Another one from Matthias. Really nice to see Ricky and Vicky. Yep, that should be something we can look at in a bit as well. That's.
I was going to save that for last.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one for last. Now, I'm not quite sure how you take off. You have to get like the engine up to like 120% or something. It needs to be like, seems to be way past full. And then I can't remember whether I exploded or took off. I think I managed to take off. And then shortly afterward I exploded. So if you press up again, or whatever it is, there you go, 200%, that's what you want. There you go, the bloke's happy with that. And apparently you're up in the air. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, okay, next game.
I don't know whether you got shot or... But as I say, I have never got very far in a lot of these games. They just seem to be weird. I think the lack of having any instruction manual may make a difference with some of these. Yeah, you have to enter lots of names on this. Unless you're a bit more familiar with playing with me. God, the number of times I've randomly hit stuff. Yeah. Is it up, down, and buttons? I can't remember on this one.
I'm just supposed to keep tapping the right button?
You have to, yeah, I think it's left, right. And then you have to do it kind of a bit in rhythm. I'm not sure you have to do it in rhythm with a heartbeat or what. This is another one I find quite weird. There's a bit of a theme of games from this era.
Alright, let's take a look and see what other games we got, and then we'll probably end up just playing Ricky and Vicky.
Do Tower Toppler, actually. Because you can demonstrate the... Oh, there we go, it's turned on already. So, if you turn off... So hit Start and go to Video Options. And turn off the filtering. Put blending on to off. And return to the game. This is what you would normally see if you had, an RGB connection, a proper RGB SCART connection. This game is unforgiving. You see how everything is checkered. It's using checkering effects to actually give you allegedly more colours. So if you turn the blending back on, you will see now that it actually looks like you've got additional colours. So I've added this kind of blending option basically for this game because it's really difficult to see anything really to make out almost the difference between the background graphics of the tower and the platforms and stuff like that without this sort of blending on. I think if you're running through a composite connection, the general poor quality of the composite signal means that it kind of looks like this. It probably won't be quite as blended. It would be quite similar. But if you're playing through S-Video even, I think it's quite hard to differentiate what's going on. So, yeah, hence this additional blending mode to make life a bit easier. And that's actually turned on, yeah, I've got a sharp option as well, which is still blends, but it's a bit more subtle. It kind of blends the edges of the pixels, basically. So it gives you an intermediate half a pixel in between the light and dark colours. Whereas with strong blending, it literally blends the two pixels together to give you an intermediate shade. So whatever people prefer. It's actually quite useful on Ricky and Vicky as well, because that's another game which uses checkering to create additional colours, and the filtering that actually works quite well. It's one of those games, it's one I need to do a cheat for time on this one actually. I think there are cheats, but not time, I don't think. But it's actually I quite enjoyed Tower Toppler. Again, played that a lot as Nebulous on the ST. Another game I never really got into. Yeah, and this is one which uses like rapid flashing of the sprite on and off to give like a translucency effect, which can often look really weird on, especially on streams. Not so bad on in-person upscalers, but better on CRTs.
All right, well let's give Ricky a try. And then I want to check out the SMS light gun. I'll bring an RGB monitor over and we'll go from there. Actually, before we do that, let's play one or two Atari 2600 games, because that was a feature of this that I think people really appreciated.
Yeah, well, this would be interesting as well. Try firing up, I was about to say, any game, and it will give you this message. So once you have played a 7800 game on the 7800, it physically locks the machine into 7800 mode. And the only way to get around this is by power cycling the console. There is literally no other way other than modifying the hardware itself to be able to switch back. So it'll give you that message, but when you return to the menu, the game will still be selected. So you can now hit the button. California Games is quite good. There's some interesting sync tearing at the top.
Yeah.
But not anymore. Seems like right at the top of the screen. Yeah, again, the 2600 video is weird with sync. The actual sync signal is generated in software, the vertical sync. So the number of lines on a screen on the 2600 is entirely software definable, and it does vary depending on even which kind of part of a game you're in. Sometimes, like the number of lines seems to jump. So the 2600 for upscalers, I think, is probably one of the most annoying consoles there is. It can literally be game to game completely different, and yeah, it's not ideal. Pitfall 2, if you've got that on there, is a good one to look at.
Actually, I wanted to play Miss Pac-Man just to show the difference between the versions of it.
Yeah. It's got more sync jitter on there.
Is there supposed to be that glitch in the screen?
I wouldn't have thought so. Again, this is obviously going through an upscaler. I don't remember seeing any issues on CRT. So yeah, by the look of it, there may be some issues with I don't know which upscalers. I don't think the Tink had issues, which is the one I will have been using. But I can kind of appreciate the 2600 games may have some sync issues here and there, which is something I can revisit. The 2600 support was an added extra, basically. Jamie Blanks was kind enough to allow me to use the TIA side of things. I initially used from Mister, that is. I initially used it for the audio for the TIA, so the 7800. When you're using the AV out port, the audio from the TIA from there is basically a second TIA chip running in parallel on the cartridge on the FPGA to generate the audio. And as I already had that running, I managed to get the video side of stuff running as well. So the video from the 2600 games is a simulated entire TIA chip on the cartridge as well. No sync issues that I can see on that one, so it's game dependent. So yeah, the 2600 should have very good, as good as Mister basically support for any of the 2600 graphics. There was one really odd thing I found, that the 7800, when it switches to 2600 mode, it has to do some really weird stuff because of this odd situation with Maria controlling the clock to the CPU and stretching it and so on. It means the TIA and the CPU can get out of sync. by like basically half cycles, if you like, in terms of the 2600. And the code which Atari have written to synchronize the things back together again can actually end up in one of two states. So when you're running a 2600 game on the 7800, it can actually start up incorrectly, which is really weird. It's something I've been meaning to look at and see if I can fix for them a little bit after the date. Okay, so we've got Ricky and Vicky. Hopefully we'll have the awesome audio. I need to turn the stream on so I can hear it as well. Yep. So
yeah, what's the difference between the basic and deluxe versions of the cart? That's just the stuff it comes with, right? Cart versus case and everything else, or?
Yep. Yeah, that came up on Twitter comments yesterday, I think it was. So that's on Stone Age Gamer. So the deluxe version, I can't remember what it included off the top of my head, but basically, yeah, the it's additional bits that Stone Age Gamer are including in their deluxe offering. I think there was a like a dust cover for the AV port if you're not using that. What else? I can't remember.
Yeah, Stone Age Gamer is kind of known for adding stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why it's good that there's two versions, because some people don't care and some people really appreciate those extras. So everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really cool. And also, I think that may be their hard case as well, and stuff like that. So yeah, you'll have to have a look and see what they've got for the deluxe edition. But they've got a really nice label as well, from what I've seen. I haven't seen the label properly yet, only a picture of it. But it's like a holographic shiny label, which looks really cool. Yeah, it's another one of those games where if you turn on the blending, I think that's either off or on sharp at the moment. If you turn on the blending on this, you'll kind of see the quite obvious lines, especially on the red kind of rocky sections. Yes, if you put it on strong, they'll kind of blend and give you an additional color.
Whoa.
So you get a lot smoother kind of color gradients on stuff then, on games which are really relying on this checkering effect. You've started in 2-player mode, I think. Yeah. Yeah, this game's really cool. I'm really pleased to have got this running. Osman, who wrote this, has been really helpful in getting this working and so on. I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to end up being an update for anybody who's bought the Steam version of this game, because there's a PC Windows version of this game on Steam. So if you want to play it on the 7800 GD, then there'll either be an update on Steam, which includes the audio files which you need and the ROM image to play the game on the 7800, or it might be appearing as a separate update. I'm not sure.
And this is a game that's available for purchase, correct?
It was.
Because we did get permission to use it for this stream.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is Penguinet. This Osman produced, I can't remember, like 500, I think, or thereabouts, cartridges for this game. And he's not doing any more runs of the physical hardware anymore, cartridges. So it's available as a Steam game if you wanted to play it on the PC, or very shortly you'll be able to buy a digital version, basically. Or if you already own the Steam version, I believe you'll just be able to kind of get an update to allow you to play it on the 700 GD as well if you've already purchased it. So yeah, you'll have an additional way of being able to actually play this game, because at the moment, the Ricky and Vicky cartridge, I think the most it was sold for was about $1,000.
Oh wow!
Because it's out of production. Absolutely nuts. So yeah, you'll actually be able to play it if you don't just want something to put on your shelf. You'll actually be able to play the game. It's a good game as well, so it's well worth getting, especially as you will be able to legitimately and support the author as well, which is really cool.
All right, so what are the ROM, the light gun games on this?
You've got Crossbow, which would be quite a good one to show off because it's got I put a cheat in there which lets you improve the accuracy of a Sega light phaser attached.
All right, so let me the
only thing with this is
get some stuff over here so we could continue the stream on a monitor.
If you've only got the one Mega 7800 plugged in, then it can be a bit of a pain if you want to switch cheats on and off, and also have the light gun attached, because you'd actually have to, you know, swap between the different things and so on. So yeah, quite a lot of the time I have two plugged in, and then you can bring up the menu with the second controller, enable cheats, and still have the light gun functioning. And the other thing, which you'll probably find in a moment, is when you boot the game and then switch to the Sega light phaser, you'll have to reset the game.
Alright, well this RGB monitor I'm getting is on a top shelf here, so if you hear a loud crash followed by silence, somebody come check on me. Let me grab this one.
You forget how heavy they are, don't you? It's crazy. So look at the chat again. Do you have a physical copy of the game? Yeah, it's really good. I got lucky. I just happened to buy, I think within the last couple of weeks, Vicky and Vicky, and so I got one of the last copies of the game as well. It's up on my shelf. But yeah, it has been quite long sold out. Digital 7800 ROM will be available. Yeah, I'll update people exactly where that's coming from, because I'm not entirely sure myself yet. It'll either be through Steam, which will be included with the Steam version of the game, or it will be available as a separate update. I'm not quite sure yet. Osmond's looking at that side of things. At the moment, the actual data and the technical side of things of the game working on the game drive are sorted. So it's just down to, you know, logistics of getting the thing out there. It's a very blue picture.
That was looking a bit blue. Is it supposed to be that blue?
No, it looks, even with nothing plugged in, it looks blue, which is a bit weird.
Well, shit. It's gonna be blue today. Let's try this out and see if it works.
Yeah.
I don't want the stream to turn into me fixing an RGB monitor, so that's,
it may not pick up on the screen turning white, because obviously that relies on the color. Yeah, well, yeah, the bright electron gun. So if it doesn't go, if it's not dark enough in the first place,
could be the sync issue. We could try that as well, but let's just start with a light gun and see what goes from there.
Is that running on component now?
No, that would be. Right. So let's see what happens when we plug this in. Did not change color. Do I need to reboot?
Nope. Nope. You have to point it at the TV. It's something I describe in the little instruction leaflet. The detection works on basically the pulses which are coming back from the console. Sorry, from the gun. So if you're pointing the light gun at the telly, the light should turn yellow.
It did.
There you go. So it's detected the light gun, and it now will work as a light gun. You'll probably have to hit reset on the console or select. I can't remember which one it is. Probably select, because you need to get it to actually go into. Crap! You'll have to switch things again now to boot the game, unless you use a standard. Oh no, you can use a standard controller in the second port.
So let me just check one very quick thing since we're here. Since that's a Genesis 2 output, let me plug in my Nomad just to see if this is an issue with the TV. It's also very blue, so this is an issue with this TV somehow. This was working the last time I used it on stream as well, so that's disappointing. That's kind of why I wanted to do it today.
Yeah.
Luckily, I know the guy I bought this from. Steve from RetroTech. The other problem is that my Master System light phasers are really hit or miss. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. You never really know. So I'll try this one more time, but if not, I could see what other monitors are available.
It's not plugged in fully by the look of it.
Yeah. You know what we could do? It's going to be super cheesy, but we could just use the 8-inch monitor for this.
That'll do.
So, light gun games are always more fun on bigger monitors, but this should pass the test for us, no problem. Could I use the light gun to select the game? Yes!
No. It may... Oh,
it did, it worked.
Oh, there we go. It hadn't detected it as a light gun at that point. When you pull the trigger, it does the equivalent of a button. So there you go. That was more of a by luck than design.
Yeah. Let me get this as close as I can with my wiring the way it is. And
I need one of those.
Yeah, I know this is kind of terrible, but you know, better than nothing. Just to prove that it works. All right.
That's pretty clear.
So let me shoot the screen.
You'll probably have to hit select on the console to get it to switch. Oh no, you may not do. It may already be in light gun mode. That's on stick. Hit select again. Or is that working? It's
gun. There we go.
Yeah, gun. There you go. That should now work. There you go. Can you see where it's, did it put a little kind of markup on the screen where you shoot? It does. There you go. If you hold the actual gun against the screen, you should see where it thinks you're firing at. On a TV that small, it may actually be all right. That doesn't look like it's far out. Do you feel like that's shooting to the left?
I think that every light gun I have is off. So
one nice thing I have in the cheats is I've actually got not only a fixed way of switching the kind of calibration or changing the calibration, I've actually got an adjustment such that you can tune it to your TV. So if you actually put the gun
I hate to be
the TV,
super rude like this, but I'm getting a large delivery. I will be back in 1 minute. I just don't want my delivery person to leave it to that.
Yeah. So I'll quickly explain. Well, that's about. So yeah, as well as all the cheats and stuff, which are available on the 7800 GD, I've also implemented as a cheat the ability to actually calibrate the delay basically on the light phaser. So that means on the Sega light phaser, I think it's perhaps either down to age or just the fact the Sega light phaser is very slightly different to the 7800 one. The delay between like the electron gun hitting the light sensor in the gun itself and then making it to the 7800, that is different on the light phaser, such that it always shoots to the left on my little telly by a couple of inches. On the even smaller 8-inch one, it might only be an inch out or whatever. But I've included some ability to change the delay there, such that you can actually get it spot on. And playing around with my setup, I managed to get it such that it's basically spot on now in terms of where you're aiming horizontally. It is absolutely spot on. And there is an option in the cheat such that you can change it as well. So I think it's the initial value of 8 or whatever, and you can change that to move the delay one way or the other, such that you can tune it to your TV.
Sorry, I know that was pretty rude, but I just anybody that's ever had a package laid out in the sun, it's never good. So I just wanted to run out and grab it real quick.
Yeah, I was wondering whether I'd get any deliveries during the stream. It's sod's law. Is that a Master System gun? Yep. So for those who haven't seen the Mega 7800 mentioned earlier, there's a little adapter, which is that one, which you can plug into the 7800 in between the 7800 and your Sega devices, either Master System, Mega Drive, and use them on the 7800. And that includes the Sega Light Phaser. So no wiring changes required, just plug and play.
All right, so the what other light gun games could we try here? Is there one more at least?
You've got Alien Brigade, Alien Brigade, which is quite cool. I quite like Alien Brigade. It's very much like Operation Wolf with aliens. No cheats on that one yet for gun calibration. It's one I'll have a look at as well.
By the way, for whoever was talking about this joystick right here, both buttons do work. This is button 1 and that's button 2.
Ooh. So did you just control the game menu with port 2? With the other stick?
Yeah, I just selected the game with the controller in port 2, and now I'm just using this in port 1. Although this doesn't seem to be shooting.
It's not in gun mode. Yeah, it's not in gun mode. Hit select or reset or something. I find that a lot with the light gun games. You need to get them into light gun mode first. That only seems to be switching between difficulty. You might find it will just work now. No, I think that's still on. Yeah, that's still on.
Maybe I have the wrong version. Let me try.
No, it's the same. Yeah, that's only header flags for emulators. The two different ROMs there, they're both identical. Make sure the light is yellow on the Mega 7800, because unless you point the gun at the TV when there's a reasonable amount of white on the screen, it won't set itself up as a gun. So you need to make sure that's yellow first.
No, it's still blue, so we'll...
There you go. Point it at the screen for a bit.
There we go. It's yellow now.
That's recognised as a gun now. There you go. So hit reset, and it should pick it up. That's one of the things I put in the instructions as well, is that you need to hit reset again, or select. The one that takes you back to the title screen. It might be select. There we go. Now if you start the game. Hey. Yeah, I put that in the instructions. It's because the game is not... if the light gun isn't detected as soon as the game boots, then you basically have to reset the game or select the different control method. And the way a lot of people will use it, I expect, is to boot the game, switch to the light gun, and then use the light gun. So you will have to make sure the light is yellow by pointing at the TV, and then make sure the game is selected the correct device.
All right.
Well, that was obvious because the cursor moves upwards all the time if the wrong one's selected.
That was awesome, and not at all the experience I thought I was going to be having with a light gun game today. That was really cool. Let me get this out of the way, and then let's take a look at the ROM cart. Is it going to be really hard to open it up in this case?
Nope. No, it's quite easy. I've put all of the screws and stuff on the back as well, such that when the label's on, then you don't damage anything. It's just one screw and 2 clips.
Okay, let me just get this stuff out of the way so I don't... I realized I haven't opened up my box of Master System stuff in a long time, and there's so many cool things in here I haven't played with. I have to get Stika on here to do a Master System stream with me where we just go through this box and play with different SMS stuff.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on the SMS. Right. The game's optimized or still buggy. Everything works. Really. All the commercial stuff works fine. The only things which don't work is there will be some homebrew stuff which uses odd mappers which aren't actually supported by any hardware. They'll kind of run on emulators, but never kind of ended up on actual hardware at any point. So basically, everything on the 7800 runs on the 7800 GD, essentially. I know there's other devices out there which are somewhat buggy in places. I don't really follow it a great deal, but I'm aware that there are issues with some of the other 7800 carts. There aren't any that I'm aware of with this one. It's only been tested with perhaps I don't know, 15 or 20 consoles, but it's been tested against a wide range of different ages and PCB revisions and different country versions like the CCAM, PAL, NTSC, different NTSC revisions. So it's been well tested. But when you're working with hardware which is 30 years old, then I will never say, yeah, it's going to work on everything perfectly, no problems, guarantee it, because I can't tell. As I said earlier in the stream, I've got a PAL console where the TIA is broken slightly. The pull-up resistors are blown on one of two of the lines, I think, for the joystick buttons. And I thought there was something wrong with what I was doing, and it turned out my console was broken. Which is what I found mostly with any problems I've received with the Jaguar game drive and the Lynx one. They've actually ended up being the consoles are broken rather than anything wrong with my hardware. So it's a funny one. And I'll enjoy seeing all of the problems which come in, which is how 7800s break. There'll be quite a few of them. So the two little clips, you may need to shove a screwdriver in or something, either from the back or the front, and just give them a gentle push,
Okay.
one way or another. And they're actual moulded clips. Yeah, it's quite a simple and elegant PCB because there's bugger all on it, really.
Oh wait, there's a screw in there. Haha.
Oh, if you haven't done the screw, you'll need that one as well. Anthony Den, can you get that to work on the Mister? Get what to work on the Mister? Was that the light guns? So I think it does support light guns, but you'd have to get an appropriate hardware, adapter to get stuff to work. I believe at the minute. I don't think it works with the controllers, as I believe. I'm so used to looking at that PCB. It's quite funny that it's the first time it will probably have been shown anywhere.
Oh, well, because I am officially an old man now, I need to put on my glasses in order to see it.
Yeah, I use a microscope most of the time.
So do you know which resistors are for the sync circuit on this? Is that something that you could call out?
Yeah, but the only problem is they'll be driving both the C-Sync and the composite video because they're just output on the same same line. R82 and R48 next to the AV out, I believe, is the, I think it's that one, is the voltage divider for the sync. I believe it's those two. Yeah, it should be. But as they're driving, it's driving both pins, I may need to break that out into two separate dividers, potentially.
Well, you shouldn't have to because it's impossible to have... I shouldn't say impossible, but nobody should be using both at the exact same time in this scenario. It would be different if they were plugging it into like an original Genesis and they wanted something to have composite video going to one monitor and sync going to their RGBS, but this is only outputting RGB, it's just outputting off of both. Also, if you're coming off the output of the THS7374, that actually supports dual 75 ohm termination.
Yes, I think that it should be, it should be going through that one. It'll be RGB in sync. Yeah, there's no reason why it would be separate. I mean, I would have to be outputting the 5 volt separately or whatever. So yeah, that will definitely both be going through there, I believe.
So from a safety point of view, if it's going through the 7374, that's absolutely fine. So Whiskey Vengeance, this has the same port as a Genesis 2, which does not offer S-Video. And this is just RGB. If you want composite, you could just go RF into any old VCR and take the composite out of that, which I've demoed before. I think Steve from RetroTech was going to do a video on that. Plus, you could also get RF modulators and stuff for fairly cheap. And I believe MrAddons.com, Pork, is selling a separate one soon. So composite, is kind of going to be an easier way to go. However, you should be able to do dual output on this. So you could get composite from the RF output via a converter and RGB from this. Is the PCB beveled? Yes, it is. Excellent question. We showed that before. Let me try to get it on stream just to you know, even though we already know the answer, it's always good to show off when something's done right. So it's very, very hard to get in focus. You almost need a macro lens, but you should be able to see it right now. So yeah.
Yeah, my PC, I've been working with my fab house for donkey's years now. They've been excellent. They've not dropped a beat on anything along those lines at all. So I'm always very very confident that everything's done properly.
Awesome. So I might have missed it. Did you say which wait, there's an echo now. Did you say which resistor was for the sync lines?
It should be R82 and R48. Just to the bottom left of the AV out port if you're looking on the front. Well, the side with the port anyway.
82 and 48. All right, so they're actually the ones that are just separate there, so that's going to be kind of easy.
Right down the bottom.
Let me try replacing them, and maybe you could answer the RetroPal's question while I'm doing this.
Yes, I was about to, yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, question on how long it took to develop. Bloody ages is the short question, short answer, sorry. But, yeah, longer is I started doing this with the Lattice 1200 HC parts, I think it was. And this would have been ready like about 12 months ago. Albeit in a much crappier fashion because that chip was nowhere near big enough. So basically, I couldn't get hold of the parts due to COVID and everything else. And then I had to swap to using the ePhoenix Trion T20s, which was awesome in the end, and it's been brilliant. But it basically meant that I had to redevelop it all pretty much from scratch. I switched loads of different things because you couldn't even buy microcontrollers readily at the time. I implemented a soft core on the FPGA to do all of that side of stuff. So I've ended up doing a ridiculous amount of work to get this thing done and out. So I guess probably at least 18 months, maybe even 2 years this has taken. And I'm talking like full time, more or less. So yeah, it's taken a ludicrous amount of time, to be quite honest. But most of that's been just because I've had to reinvent the wheel on so many different occasions due to other issues. So it's been a bit of a journey. But yeah, I'm really pleased to finally get the blooming thing out. So.
All right.
So a quick look on the PCB. The schematic, and I'll just see what I've got in there. I would imagine it will be 1.8 and 3.6 or something. Come on. I think the Jaguar game drive probably took a similar amount of time to develop as well. It's although I think I had a job at that point. So that was something that was sort of developed a little bit.
So I think the one I just removed was C-Sync. I'm sorry, my microphone keeps flipping around. Let me readjust this. So if I'm getting muffled or anything, I apologize. This should be a little better. All right, so now let me try.
Right.
I think I removed the correct one that I was going for, but we'll see it.
All right, let me just double check on the schematic. Which ones do what?
It's funny, I'm still not at all used to wearing glasses, so unless I'm looking exactly at the in-focus part, I just got super dizzy when I looked at something else.
Yeah, that's interesting. It definitely shouldn't be that high. It's so R82 is 4.7K, or should be. R48 should be 1K. And that should be coming out at about 0.3 volts.
So I just removed R82, and sync doesn't work off of either one now.
No, it won't do. R82 is the resistor which C-Sync is going through as a voltage divider, and then R48 is going to ground. Let me just check.
And which one is R48 connected to?
R48 is 1K to ground. So it's basically doing a resistor divider with the C-Sync line, which will be 3.3 volts through a 4.7 with a 1K to ground. Just checking the resistor values look correct.
Yeah, because there has to be
472.
two different lines going. It can't just be the same signal going to both pins because there's different voltage on both pins.
Which one? On the out?
On the C-Sync and on the CVBS pin, voltage came out different on both. So there has to
I don't
be two
understand that. It
separate
comes from the
paths.
same driver. Yeah, it comes from the same driver, as in it comes from the whatever the video driver chip is. The is it 6564? I can't remember. No, it is the 7374. So sync out comes straight out of the 7374 and directly into the connector. So the difference you're seeing with the termination is down to additional components in the cable. So I'm assuming the sync line has an additional resistor. Yeah, this doesn't seem to add up, which is interesting. So you're 4.7 plus 1.
And if anybody's just joining the stream, what we're checking on is just making it as compatible as possible. What we're not, this is not a safety issue. You're not going to plug this into your scaler and have it explode your scaler. This is very simply just nitpicking because we're nerds and that's what we do. We want everything to be as good as possible. Let me check the resistance on this. It's always so hard getting a reading from resistors that small.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be coming out allegedly at about 600 millivolts, which is about a bit more what I'd expect. Why is that coming out so high? That should be a 1K on the R48 and a 4.7 on R82.
It's a 1K on R48.
So
I think I may have, when I removed the other resistor, I may have bridged it or destroyed it, but I have plenty of replacements if you let me know which one. But what cable were you testing with when you were testing these?
Well, one I got off eBay in the end.
That's the problem. You have to make sure to buy the cables that are made exactly to spec.
Yeah.
And you can't use HD RetroVision cables in testing because they compensate for a lot of mistakes in a lot of these things. So you have to just go to Retro Access, to Retro Gaming Cables, Rob, right in the UK, and you have to use one of their cables when you're doing these.
Yeah, they were out of stock, annoyingly. I managed to hit the period where everybody was out of stock of video cables. I managed to hit the period where everybody was out of stock of everything at every point during development.
Oh, you should have messaged me. I would have just sent you one of mine.
There you go. Yeah. So I just ended up with a cheap one. So I haven't, admittedly, looked at it in detail. Yeah, we should be getting about 600 millivolts out of that. Not sure why it isn't. It must be down to the termination, but then again, it didn't seem to. Yeah, interesting. That's not doing as I'd expect. So that's something I shall look into. But it is basically a resistor divider which is taking the C-Sync signal in on R82 and a dropper resistor onto R48, which is just to ground. So it is just a resistor divider. if you put in a larger resistor on R82, like if you put in a 10K, then that should halve it. Just more than half.
But then what would that do to the C-Sync signal, which is already too low?
Yeah, that would be bad. I'm most likely going to have to break this out into two outputs. One for the C-Sync and one for the composite video, and drive the composite video through the 7473, 7374 even, and do just a direct out to the sync, and then that way I've got control over individual kind of voltage levels at that point. Yeah, it's coming out higher than I expect though. Much higher. Is sync analog coupled?
Is what? I'm sorry.
Or is it? Yeah, is the sync AC coupled? Sorry. Has it got a capacitor in it?
So there is supposed to be a capacitor on the sync line to filter the AC coupling.
I'm wondering whether there's a DC.
I put the resistor back in. I got signal again. So.
Yeah, if you up that, well, as you say, you're reducing one side of it and then causing more issues than another. Yeah, I will have to look into that in a bit more detail to see what's going on. But that's not doing what I'd expect.
Let me try. I might have one of my custom cables laying around, which is improperly built, which you shouldn't ever use, but that might actually be a perfect test cable for this. So give me 1 second, see if I could pull that out and find something remotely helpful. Well, that's funny. I found the RGB cable I was supposed to give Jose a long time ago for one of the projects we were working on. Okay, sorry, dude. At least we know where that went. And I'm wondering where the heck that other cable would have gone. I have one of my stashes of boxes up here. Hey David, how's it going? You unfortunately joined us at the absolute nerdiest, slowest part of the stream, but if you're into testing video signals, then you came at the right spot. You know what's going to happen is as soon as I start the next live stream, I'm going to stumble across this Genesis 2 style cable and go, ah, that's what I was looking for the other day.
Yeah, cables have a habit of vanishing.
I don't know where the heck I would have put it. I'll have a look for one more, and if there's anything you want me to try swapping resistors or anything, I could try that as well.
Certainly, if you put in like a 10K on R82, that would drop the voltage down to probably about 600 millivolts, I would imagine. On the that'll be the C. Is that the composite video? I can't remember which one was high. I mean, it'll drop it on both, but
the only thing is I wouldn't want to put another resistor in that's going to make the other side too high.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that's there's any way of compensating such that. Yeah, I don't think there's probably any way of compensating such that both will be improved. I think I'm probably going to have to respin just on the C-Sync out.
So
just to
I
change
found
that.
a cable that was not meant for a Genesis 2 that doesn't have any components in it whatsoever, including on the C-Sync side. And it just did the same thing that the CVBS side did, where when I turned on 75 ohm termination, nothing happened really.
Yep.
So there's, you know, as is, the circuit is definitely good enough. People who buy this, you know, you're probably going to get a small handful of people that may have issues, but I would absolutely look into for Rev 2 tweaking this, because
Absolutely.
that is, I'm not smart enough to give you the detailed reasons, but I can with confidence say that if the voltage doesn't change under termination, that's not the best possible video TV signal you could have. So the voltage is definitely not going to blow anything up, but you right now, most certainly you're going to get issues, as we saw on the OSSC, and potentially other things that you wouldn't have had. You know, you might, I don't want to bother pulling out the FrameMeister because not many people use that anymore, but you could very well have issues on that because that was also sensitive to sync issues. But all of it could probably just be solved with changing up that circuit.
Yeah. No, I'll look into that.
But I mean, just to be clear once again to everybody listening, right? The RetroTink 5X, both RetroTink 2X SCART and 2X Pro, the Rad 2X all worked, as well as obviously through an RGB monitor. So your standard scalers work fine. The OSSC worked with one, but not the other. And I'm pretty positive that, and the one that did work, it was a little wonky, but I'm pretty positive that's the sync issue. Not 100% positive, but fairly positive.
Yeah, there's certainly profiles which work with the OSSC, but yeah, as you say, it may be that they're less tweaking required if the sync levels are tweaked.
So that Ricky and Vicky that you sent me, there was an A78 folder as well as another folder below it. Do I need both?
Yeah. The folder with no extension on it is the audio data. So just to add some context, as the way the BUP chip, which is the audio chip inside the Ricky and Vicky cartridge, works is it's got a microcontroller in there which does all of the audio mixing and then pipes it out to the 7800. I didn't have the capacity to be able to do all of that stuff on the cartridge, so instead I just did ADPCM encoding of all of the audio stream for each of the audio tracks, and implemented a streaming ADPCM player basically. So in that folder are all of the files which would otherwise be generated by a microcontroller for the audio. So slightly long-winded description, but yeah. But one thing that's quite neat with all of that is I've also added the ability for people to use the ADPCM encoding in Homebrew. So along with the 7800 GD stuff, I'm going to be releasing a load of source code on GitHub, which includes the ADPCM encoder. So you'll be able to encode WAV files into the ADPCM format, which the cartridge uses. And then just by setting the appropriate bit in the ROM header in the A78, then you'll actually be able to use streamed audio files in Homebrew, and then you just have to include the audio folder along with your game. If you want streamed audio. So there's going to be loads of interesting possibilities for Homebrew. And another bit of sample code I've written is to use all of the buttons as well. So it's possible, if you wanted to flag that you're using the Mega 7800 in your game, and I won't fiddle with it in the 78 in the cartridge side of things. And you can read all of the buttons. So if people wanted to do something which use a more complicated UI or additional buttons or whatever, they can do it. So there's going to be loads of interesting support for Homebrew coming, and also that will be supported in 7800 Basic as well. So anybody producing stuff using 700 Basic will shortly be able to use streamed audio and 6-button controllers and all sorts. So I'm hoping it should be, encourage a bit more variety and exploration with Homebrew stuff as well.
as we're winding this down, does anybody in the chat have any questions for James about this, or I guess about any of the other Retro HQ products? Although this stream was really supposed to be about these two, but you know, the man is here, so if you had a question, I guess you might as well just fire away right now. Also, just for the record, again, both because this stuff's important to me and because James is also a game developer, so it's important to him too. We got permission to show Ricky and Vicky. We didn't just steal it and show it on stream. We got permission to do so. And it's always important to me to let people know that.
Yeah, just add again in case people weren't here earlier, but Ricky and Vicky will be available as a digital download in some way, form, shape or other. Before too long, I will give details of that. So yeah, Osman has been extremely helpful in getting it all running, and he's been really helpful, you know, during development of the 7800 GD as well, because he's got a lot of knowledge of 7800 and the slightly weird hardware and everything else. So he's been fantastically helpful throughout all of this, including, you know, letting me being happy for me to kind of get Ricky and Vicky running. And you know, giving him the ability, hopefully, to distribute it digitally and everything else. So it's all been really good. It's great, just the people you meet when you do this sort of stuff. So
yeah, I'll be honest. That was my favorite of the games that I played today, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke. Everybody knows I'm annoyingly honest. I mean it. I thought that was a really, really great game, and it was one that I would like to go back and try again. So.
Yeah, and it's different gameplay between 1 and 2 player as well, which is quite cool. So if you're playing through as 1 player, you get a different set of levels to 2 player, and then you do have cooperative, you know, elements with the 2 player stuff as well. So it is very good.
All right. We'll hang out for a couple more minutes just in case, because I know depending on your internet connection, that could be a very long delay. So I looked up at my screen before, and it was like 2.5 minutes previous to us. So I don't know how long the delay is for some of the people watching.
Yeah, mine wasn't too bad. It was only seemed to be like a few seconds before, but whether that changes, I don't know. And oh, hello to Modivision, one of the testers on this. He's been extremely helpful. He sorted out all of the OSSC profiles in terms of what's working with his setup and so on. Yeah, definitely good news on Ricky and Vicky, Wizards with Machinery. It's yeah, as I said, it's the only only other way of playing Ricky and Vicky. Even on Mister, there's no audio support, so it's the only way to play the game. Apart
you
from
can't play it on the Mister core.
Not with audio, no. There's because of exactly the same reason that you need quite a high speed ARM processor or whatever. It doesn't have to be ARM. A high speed processor alongside the hardware itself to be able to generate the audio. It's something that I think, yeah, it was Katrinks who was doing 7800 as well. Had thought about in whether you could use the soft core or whatever. And well, I mean, all of the code and everything to generate the ADPCM files and so on will be available shortly. So yeah, there's no reason why that couldn't be implemented in Mister using the same sort of techniques as I'm using as well. So it may well be playable in Mister as well with audio before long, which should be cool.
Awesome. I guess the only other just kind of useless question is once you've updated the firmware, you could just delete that firmware update file from the game
absolutely.
drive.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it won't do any harm leaving it, but equally, there's no problem deleting it either. So.
Well, James, thank you for doing this. Hang out with me afterwards too. Everybody watching, thank you all for just hanging out, being cool. I mean, it's always so much cooler to do this stuff with everybody in the chat. And while I do like hanging out with you, James, it's just a lot of fun having everybody here to do this with us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been brilliant.
All right. Well, I guess that's everything. We're going to call it for now. And these two awesome items should be on sale very shortly. So just keep your eye on RetroRGB.com or my Twitter account. I know Twitter, but still it's one of the easiest ways for me to get information out to all of you. So as soon as they go up for sale, I will be posting about it, and we will go from there.
Brilliant.